Hello and welcome to this Learn and Play video for Doomtown Reloaded by Pinebox Entertainment. I'm your host, Tybar, and this is my assistant and opponent. We're going to show you how to play a full day or round in Gamora. So we'll start by talking about some of the individual cards that are on the table. This is the faction symbol for the Law Dogs in the original home, which is also called the Law Dogs. It has an ability, which we won't get into here, a starting Ghost Rock amount, which we'll use to start our starring gang, and our starting amount of Ghost Rock that we'll have left over, and an amount of Ghost Rock that it generates on every upkeep, which we'll get to here in a moment. In addition to this, we have, this is Hustings. It's a deed. All deeds are diamonds. It's a 3 value. Has 1 control point, which is how you win the game. It's a public deed, which will matter in some shootouts. It also costs 4 Ghost Rock to play it, and then every round it will generate 2 Ghost Rock during upkeep. And in our starting gang, we have 4 dudes. This is the first one, Thunderboy Nabby. He is a 6 value. All dudes are spades. He has 1 brass bullet, which is a draw, which is important in shootouts, and he has 2 influences, which is what keeps you from losing the game. He has a keyword, an ability. He costs 3 to play, and then he has an upkeep cost. Upkeep costs range from about 0 to 2 normally. This cost is how much you pay in order to keep him into play during every day after low ball is done. So, building a starring posse, we usually want a certain amount of money and only 1 upkeep if we can help it. This gives us some options when we're playing cards and paying for deeds and goods throughout the game. My starring posse has influence on 3 characters, which is good because you want influence spread across as many as you can. It also has only 1 upkeep. It doesn't have any stud dudes who have brass bullets, but we'll get to that later as to how you fix that problem. So we build up the town of Gamora by having 2 streets. My side of the street and my opponent's starts with our outfit card, and we can play deeds on either side of that, and my opponent has done the same. There's no limit to the number of deeds you can place on either side, but you always have to play them next to a deed or your outfit. We also have Town Square, which is the area between our streets. By default, we always own and control our own homes and any of our deeds, but nobody controls or owns Town Square. There's also places that are out of town, like this deed over here. Those deeds are harder to get to, but they usually provide a good amount of income during the game. So we start this day by lowball. So we start lowball by setting aside our play hands and anteing up. 1 Ghost Rock each. Then we draw 5 cards off the top of our deck and then show them. So in lowball, we care about who has the lowest hand. So in my case, I have a pair of 3s and a joker. Now jokers are wild, so in this case I want to make it not a 3 or not a 4 or an 8 in order to keep my hand low. So I'll call it a Jack of Spades. My opponent has 2 10s. Now these 2 10s are special. They're both diamonds. They're cheating. And during lowball, after hands are revealed, cheating resolutions can be played. Her hand is considered cheating and mine is not, because I have a 3 of hearts and a 3 of diamonds. So I will look through my play hand, and I'll set this down. I'll look through my play hand and I will find, pause it. So I will find in my play hand a card that says cheating resolution on it. This is an action card. It's a 4 of clubs, all actions are clubs, has 0 cost, has a cheating resolution. The cheating player must boot 1 of their dudes. If in a shootout, which it's not, that dude gets ace instead. If you have a legal hand, which we already established I did, you choose a dude to boot or ace. Now, she has a lot of influence on this card, so we're going to boot it. And now I discard this card into the discard pile, and we discard our lowball hands. Now, I had this joker earlier, and this joker will be aced, as jokers only get used once by default. Ace cards go into Boot Hill, which is a special place that doesn't get reshuffled if you run out of cards to draw. Now, because I won lowball, I will get to take the ante, and now my opponent and I both count up how much money we make. So 3, 4, 5, and this one has a 6th one. This one contributes nothing. So I get 6 Ghost Rock. And my opponent will pull her Ghost Rock from the communal pile. And now after we've generated money, we have to pay for dudes who have upkeep. So as earlier established, one of my dudes has an upkeep of 1, so I'll pay that. If I had chose not to, he would have gotten discarded, which is sometimes useful, but in this case I want to keep Thunder Boy here. So because my opponent also had a dude with upkeep who is at her pharmacy, he is going to be he's going to cost 1 upkeep, which she paid. Now, because I won lowball, I get to take the first action throughout the day. Looking at the board, I have 2 deeds on my side of the street and 1 out of town. She has 3 deeds on her side of the street, 1 of which is occupied by 1 of her dudes. All of my dudes are at home. So the first action I'm going to do is I'm going to play a goods card. So this is another type of card. This is a goods. All goods are hearts. This is 6 value. This one is a weapon, and it contributes +1 bullet to the dude that's attached to. So in order to play a goods, you pay the cost, which is down here. Just 1 Ghost Rock. And you attach it under a dude like this, so you can see any bullets or influence it might give. So now Andrew Burton has effectively 3 bullets, 2 for himself and 1 from the weapon. Dudes by default can only have 1 weapon. There are other types of goods that they can also only have 1 of. Horses and a tire. We won't get to those in this video. Some goods have actions on them, which this one does, and we'll get to that during the shootout. Now, after my play, my opponent gets a chance to act as well. So she is also going to play a card for her hand. Now this is also a heart, but it's a special kind called a spell. Spells, also heart's value. They have a keyword, which in this case is a hex. Hexes can only be attached to hucksters, which the tattooed man is. Hexes have a cost and attach just the same way as goods do. So it'll slide right under there, and we'll deal with its actions later in this video. After my opponent's action, it's my turn to act again. In this case, I'm going to move Andrew Burton into Town Square. As we stated earlier, Town Square is somewhere where no one controls, and one aspect of attaching cards that I failed to mention earlier is that you have to do so in a location that you control. So nobody controls Town Square. We had to start playing our goods before we moved. After my action, it's my opponent's. My opponent is going to play a dude. And this dude is named Bobo. It only costs 1 Ghost Rock, has 3 upkeep, and is kind of a bruiser in this scenario. After she plays Bobo, I'm going to move in Thunderboy Navi. And my opponent is going to move a dude to the Epidemic Laboratory. Now, the Epidemic Laboratory has a job on it. Jobs are special in that they are powerful actions that require commitment from the person running them. In this case, I'm going to move over here to signal that I'm probably going to oppose this job. Now, neither of us have any influence here at this location. I have 0 influence and she does as well. However, ties revert to the owner of the deed, so she is still the controller. Now, she is booting the card in order to run the job. Now, this job, if she succeeds, she will get to put a control point on this and give it +1 income generation. Now, this is something I don't want her to have, so I'm going to probably oppose it. But she has to form her posse first in a job. This is a commitment for her. Now, in order to form posses for jobs, this area is the mark, and this is the leader, because Funtime Freddy is running the job. Now, Funtime is going to join the job. Because he is the leader, he does not boot. Anyone who is adjacent to the location of the mark or the leader on her side can join booted. Anyone who is at the location here would be able to join unbooted. Now, since Carl, who I booted earlier, is not unbooted, he has to stay home. And the tattooed man isn't adjacent. He's way over here on this side of town. He also can't join. Now that she's formed her posse, I get to choose if I want to fight it out or just let her have it. I'm going to choose to fight it out because I'm pretty confident about what I have in my hand. I will choose Andrew Burton, who's here already, to oppose it, and then I will boot in Thunderboy from Town Square, which is adjacent. Now that we've formed our posses, we'll start into the shootout portion of the job because I'm opposing it. Just like before, I have the first shootout action because I won lowball. Now, I have a hand of cards, and I don't really want to use these yet. So I'm going to use Andrew Burton's Winchester, and it has a shootout ability. It says shootout boot. Boot this dude to give them +1 bullets and make them a stud. So, we will boot the Winchester and boot Burton. Now, Burton has 2, 3, 4 bullets from this ability and is a stud dude. We'll get to what that means in a moment when we make hands. So, my opponent has her spell that she played earlier on the tattooed man. Now, that spell has a shootout action which says shootout boot 7. So in order to cast spells, you have to make a pull from the top of your deck. And when you pull, you take the value of that card and you add in your Huckster's rating, which in this case is 3. A queen is a 12 value, +3 is 15, which easily makes the 7 from earlier. So the tattooed man will join the posse as well on her side. Now I'll look at my hand, and I don't have anything I want to play now, so I will pass, and my opponent will pass. Now, had she not passed and played something else, I would have another chance to play or pass as well. But once we both consecutively pass, we put down our play hands, and we pick our shooters and figure out what values we have. Now on my side, it's pretty easy. I have a 4-stud dude, as I said earlier, so he's going to be my shooter. Your shooter always contributes their full amount of bullets to the draw hand for the shootout, and everyone else contributes 1 bullet of their type, no matter how many bullets they have. So in this case, Thunderboy has 1 brass bullet, so that's a draw. So I have 4 stud and 1 draw on my side. On my opponent's side, Bobo is normally a 1 stud, but because of his trait, he gets 3 extra bullets because there's a huckster on the table who has a rank of 3. So Bobo will be her shooter with 4 stud, and then she'll add 1 stud from the tattooed man, who only contributes 1 even though he has a 3, is only helping. So that is 4, 5, and 6 stud, and 1 draw from the brute. So now, we start by making a hand of 5 cards, base, and then we add our stud bonus to that. So in my case it is 4, and my opponent's case it's 6. And then we look at our hand. I've drawn my hand, and unfortunately I have a really bad draw here. I have cheating pairs pretty much everywhere, and only 1 legal pair of 8s. My best hand that I can form right now is either a legal pair of 8s, or I can almost make a cheating flush. So I'm going to go drawing a card. For my draw bonus, I can discard up to 1 card and then draw back up. So in this case, I don't have a matching 3 anywhere, so I'm going to discard this 3 of diamonds and draw another card. So I'm still cheating at best with a flush. Otherwise, I have cheating 2 pair or a pair of 8s legal. So I'm going to gamble on this. I'm going to hope that she doesn't have a cheating resolution, and I'm going to make this cheating flush here. And you see the hand ranks here. So going up, high card, a pair, 2 pair, 3 of a kind, a straight, which is all values in a row, a flush, which is all the same suit, which is what I have here in my hand, a full house, which is 2 of one value and 3 of another, a 4 of a kind, a straight flush, which is all the same suit and going up in value, a 5 of a kind, which is usually cheating, and a dead man's hand, which is a special hand rank, which we won't get into in this video. Now, we've already discarded our extra cards, and we're down to 5, so we'll reveal them at the same time. In my case, it's a cheating flush with 2 6 clubs, and in my opponent's case, it's a legal flush, which is also a straight flush with this joker. Now, we can look at the hand ranks again, but a straight flush is 3 off of a flush, so I will take 3 casualties. In order to take casualties, we could have cheating resolutions or regular resolutions. I get the first option, and I have a resolution in my hand, but this one isn't very good for me because it deals with legal hands and mine was cheating. So I won't play that. My opponent could play a cheating resolution, but because I'm already losing by so much, she's probably just going to let me take the 3 casualties. So in order to take casualties, you can discard an ace dudes. Discarding a dude, which I'll do with Thunderboy, gives 1 casualty. And now I have to make up the other 2. And in order to do that, I'll ace Andrew Burton. Being ace, just like the Joker, goes into a special pile that doesn't reshuffle into your deck. Which means that dude will probably be gone for the rest of the game. And the Winchester that he was holding will just get discarded to the discard pile. Now her Joker is also aced because Jokers are 1 use. But you'll see that I now have nobody opposing the job, and so her job is successful. Now at the end of a job, all of her dudes will go home booted. And the effects of the job will resolve because it was successful. In this case, it gets a permanent control point, and it gets +1 income, which we'll just use that ghost rock there to signal that. Now, in addition to all this, I've lost 2 of my income. I've lost 2 of my influence. I'm now down to just 2 from both these 2 characters. So these 2 dudes are all I have left in my gang. So now I'm at risk. I only have 2 influence, and she has now 3 4 control points. which means I will lose at the end of this day if I don't do something to fix that problem. So since that was her job, I get an action now again. So I'm going to move Hattie to town square. And this movement, because Hattie is moving from home into town square, she does not boot to do this. So my opponent will take an action. She's going to use the ability on this card in order to unboot Bobo so that he can move around again. By default, booted dudes can't move. So in order to keep this game from me losing, I'm going to move Hattie to the pharmacy. Now Hattie has an influence, and she has no influence here, so I take control of the 2 control points from this deed, giving me 4, and more importantly, her control points are only 2, which match my influence, which means I won't lose right now. You pause that? Now, my opponent's going to move Bobo to town square, presumably in order to capture the pharmacy back for me. So in order to prevent that, Stuart Davidson is actually going to boot to move directly to the pharmacy. I could move him to town square, but then Bobo could call him out. And Stuart Davidson really doesn't want to fight there by himself. So he's going to boot to the pharmacy in order to make sure he gets there. Now Bobo moves to the pharmacy. Now I have a choice. I can call out Bobo because I don't really want to fight here, but I really need to keep this deed. Instead, I'm going to see what Bobo does, so I will pass. Now, Bobo is calling out Stuart Davidson. Now, normally, you can refuse a call out by going home booted, but that's only if the dude is unbooted that's getting called out. In this case, Stuart is booted, so he can't refuse. So, he has to accept. My opponent forms the posse first. In this case, it's only Bobo, no one else can join. My posse is going to be Stuart Davidson, who has to join because he's been called out, and Hattie, because I want her in there as extra muscle to potentially win this fight. So we go into the shootout, and at the beginning of the shootout, before we take any actions, because it's a private location, everyone who is controlled by someone who doesn't own this deed gains a bounty. It doesn't matter who controls it right now, only who owns it. So now both my dudes are wanted because they have at least 1 bounty on them. Wanted matters for certain things.